Hello, sleepy traveler. Tonight we're going to journey back to a quieter time, an era marked by uniforms, long marches, and endless waiting. But amidst all the noise of war, there was something surprisingly ordinary. What soldiers ate every day? What did WWII soldiers eat? How did their meals keep them going through harsh battles, cold nights, and endless days? It wasn't always the hot meals you might imagine. Sometimes it was canned, dried, or even mysterious rations that soldiers carried in their packs. So settle into your bed, let your breathing slow, and let me take you through the simple, often overlooked history of the meals that fueled a generation. This is a story not of battles or strategy, but of food, the quiet sustenance behind the courage. Part 1, the daily meal that kept the soldiers moving. In World War II, soldiers' meals were carefully planned for convenience and nutrition. The most famous meal was the K-ration, a small portable box filled with various foods meant to be eaten on the go. The K-ration wasn't fancy, but it was reliable. Inside, a soldier might find canned meat or cheese, biscuits, chewing gum, instant coffee, and even candy. It was designed to provide enough calories for a day of hard marching or fighting. Though it was convenient, the K-ration wasn't something soldiers looked forward to. Many called it the boredom box because the same items repeated day after day. But it was dependable and kept hunger at bay. Besides the K-ration, there were other rations like the C-ration, which was canned and could be heated. When possible, soldiers enjoyed fresh food, but that was rare in the midst of battle. The food may have been simple, sometimes tasteless, and occasionally even suspicious, but it was the quiet fuel that kept millions of soldiers going through the long, tiring days of World War II. Part 2, the ingredients of survival, what was inside a K-ration. The K-ration was designed with 3 meals in mind: breakfast, dinner, and supper. Each meal came in its own small package inside the ration box, making it easy for soldiers to open and eat throughout the day. Breakfast might include a biscuit or crackers, some powdered eggs or canned meat, a chocolate bar or fruit bar for energy, and a small packet of instant coffee or tea. It was quick and simple, intended to be eaten before a long day of marching or fighting. Dinner was a bit more filling. It often contained canned meat like ham or beef, along with crackers, chewing gum, and sometimes powdered fruit drink to replenish lost fluids and vitamins. These meals were often eaten cold, as heating was not always possible. Supper, the final meal of the day, had similar components to dinner, but sometimes included a sweet treat, like candy or chewing gum, to help lift spirits after a tough day. Though repetitive, these rations were packed with calories and nutrients, carefully measured to keep soldiers alert and strong. Yet many soldiers dreamed of real meals, fresh bread, hot soup, or homemade pies, longing for comforts far from the battlefield. Part 3, the challenges of eating on the front lines. Eating during World War II was rarely a peaceful or comfortable experience. Soldiers often had to eat quickly, sometimes while standing guard or waiting for orders. The battlefield was rarely a place for leisurely meals. The weather was another challenge. Cold, wet conditions could make even the simplest meal difficult to enjoy. In freezing temperatures, canned food could become hard to open, and soldiers' fingers numbed by frost made handling tiny packages a struggle. Sometimes, fires for cooking were impossible to make without giving away their position to the enemy. That meant many meals were eaten cold or with just a small warming over a portable stove. Despite these hardships, soldiers adapted. They shared their rations, traded items to balance tastes, and sometimes even made small recipes by mixing what little they had, like crackers soaked in coffee or canned meat mixed with chewing gum, though that didn't always taste good. Food was more than just nourishment. It was a small comfort, a moment of normalcy in an otherwise chaotic world. Part 4, fresh food and surprise treats from home. Though canned rations were the staple, soldiers occasionally received fresh food that felt like a gift from home. When supply lines allowed, fresh bread, fruits, and vegetables made their way to the front, brightening soldiers' days. Some lucky units had field kitchens where cooks prepared hot meals, often stews or soups made from whatever ingredients were available. These meals, though simple, were cherished, the warmth and aroma reminding soldiers of family dinners. In rare moments, soldiers received care packages from loved ones filled with homemade treats like cookies, candy, or even fresh fruit. These parcels were treasured and shared carefully, providing a taste of comfort amid hardship. Sometimes local farmers or villagers offered fresh eggs, milk, or produce. These unexpected gifts not only improved nutrition, but boosted morale. Though these fresh foods were rare and unpredictable, their presence was a quiet reminder of home and normal life beyond the war. Part 5. The importance of coffee in a soldier's day. One thing nearly every WWII soldier cherished was coffee. Whether it was a strong black brew or instant coffee from a small packet, coffee was more than just a drink. It was a ritual. Coffee helped soldiers wake up before long days of duty and provided a brief moment of calm amid chaos. The bitter warmth of coffee was comforting, reminding them of mornings back home. In many cases, coffee was the only hot drink available, and soldiers would often guard their coffee packets carefully, sharing them only with close friends. Sometimes coffee breaks became a moment of camaraderie, where stories were swapped and worries momentarily faded. Even when supplies ran low, soldiers tried to stretch their coffee, making it last through multiple days, showing just how important this simple beverage was to morale. Part 6. The sweetness soldiers craved: candy and chocolate. Among the often bland and repetitive food rations, candy and chocolate were treasured luxuries for WWII soldiers. Small chocolate bars or hard candies packed inside rations provided quick bursts of energy and a welcome break from salty or savory flavors. Chocolate was not only a treat, but a morale booster. Soldiers sometimes joked that a chocolate bar could brighten the darkest day. Candy also had a practical use. It helped to mask the taste of less appealing rations or medicines. However, chocolate could be tricky to keep intact. In hot climates, it melted quickly and became a sticky mess, while in cold conditions, it hardened and lost some of its appeal. Still, even a small piece of chocolate or candy was enough to lift spirits and remind soldiers of simpler times, sweets from childhood, or holidays long past. Part 7. How soldiers made do without fresh water. Sometimes water, a basic need for life, was sometimes scarce or difficult to find for soldiers in the field. Clean, fresh water was essential not only for drinking, but also for preparing food and keeping hygiene. When water was limited, soldiers had to ration their supplies carefully. They often relied on powdered drinks included in rations to replenish fluids and vitamins. In some regions, water sources were contaminated, forcing soldiers to purify water by boiling or using chemical tablets to make it safe. Carrying enough water was a constant challenge, especially during long marches or in hot climates. Soldiers learned to conserve water, drinking only what was necessary to stay hydrated. This scarcity made mealtime even more challenging, as some rations required water for preparation or drinking. Despite these difficulties, soldiers adapted quickly, making every sip count to survive the demanding conditions of war. Part 8. The role of canned food: durability over delight. Canned food was a staple for many soldiers during WWII because it could last long without spoiling and withstand the rough handling. The tins often contained meat, vegetables, beans, or soups, packed to provide necessary nutrients. While durable, canned food wasn't known for its taste. Soldiers sometimes called it mystery meat or joked about strange flavors and textures. Opening cans in the field could be tricky without a proper opener, and sometimes soldiers had to improvise with knives or other tools. Despite its drawbacks, canned food was vital, offering a warm, filling meal when fresh food was impossible. The long shelf life of canned goods meant they could be stockpiled and transported across continents, keeping armies fed in faraway lands. Part 9. The surprise of local food: tastes from different lands. As soldiers traveled across continents, they sometimes encountered local foods quite different from their usual rations. These new flavors could be a pleasant surprise or a challenge to their taste buds. In Europe, soldiers might come across hearty breads, cheeses, or cured meats. In the Pacific, tropical fruits and seafood offered fresh, vibrant tastes. Sometimes local civilians offered meals or shared produce, providing a brief escape from the monotony of military rations. Trying local food could be a risk. Unfamiliar ingredients and preparation methods sometimes caused stomach troubles, but for many it was a welcome adventure and a reminder of the diverse world beyond the war. These moments of tasting local food brought soldiers a small but meaningful connection to the lands where they fought. Part 10. The simple luxury of bread and butter. Bread and butter might seem ordinary, but for many WWII soldiers, these were a rare and treasured luxury. When fresh bread was available, soft, warm, and fragrant, it was eagerly eaten, sometimes with a generous spread of butter. Butter added richness and flavor that was often missing from canned or dried rations. Soldiers cherished these moments, savoring every bite as a reminder of home and normal life. Even the smell of baking bread in a distant bakery could lift spirits and bring comfort. Such simple foods reminded soldiers that amidst war, everyday pleasures could still exist, offering a quiet moment of peace. Part 11. The unexpected role of peanut butter. Peanut butter became a surprisingly important part of many soldiers' diets during World War II. Packed with protein and calories, it was an excellent energy source that didn't spoil quickly and could be eaten straight from the jar or spread on crackers. Soldiers appreciated peanut butter's creamy texture and nutty flavor, which offered a pleasant change from canned meats and biscuits. It was also lightweight and easy to carry, making it perfect for long marches or field operations. In some cases, peanut butter was combined with other rations to create simple snacks or sandwiches, helping to keep hunger at bay. Though humble, peanut butter was a small comfort in tough times and a dependable source of nourishment. Part 12. The quiet importance of salt and spices. Salt and spices were small but vital parts of a soldier's food supply. Without them, canned and preserved foods could taste bland or even unpleasant. Salt helped preserve food, but soldiers also used it to improve flavor, sprinkling it on rations whenever possible. Spices, like pepper or dried herbs, were rarer but cherished additions that reminded soldiers of home cooking. Even a pinch of seasoning could make a simple meal more enjoyable and lift morale. Soldiers sometimes traded rations to get extra spices, showing how important these tiny flavor boosters were in the monotony of war food. Part 13. How soldiers managed their meals in the trenches. Life in the trenches during World War II was grueling, and eating there presented unique challenges. Trenches were often muddy, cramped, and exposed to the elements, making meal preparation difficult. Soldiers relied heavily on ready-to-eat rations, eating cold, canned food or hard biscuits because cooking fires were risky and often forbidden. Eating was often rushed and done in shifts, with soldiers grabbing bites whenever they had a moment. Despite the hardships, sharing meals, even simple ones, helped build camaraderie and provided brief moments of comfort amid the chaos. These small acts of eating together brought a sense of normalcy to an otherwise harsh and dangerous environment. Part 14. The role of mess kits and eating utensils. Every WWII soldier carried a mess kit, a small metal container used for cooking and eating. Mess kits were practical and durable, often consisting of a plate, pan, cup, and sometimes a small stove. Soldiers used them to heat canned food, brew coffee, or eat cold rations. Because of their compact design, mess kits could be easily strapped to a soldier's belt or packed into their backpack. Maintaining and cleaning the mess kit was important even in difficult conditions to prevent illness. These simple tools made eating in the field possible and allowed soldiers to carry out one of the few routines they could control: mealtime. Part 15. How weather affected what soldiers ate. The weather during World War II had a huge impact on soldiers' meals. In freezing winters, rations could freeze solid, making them hard to open and eat. Snow and ice sometimes covered food supplies, delaying delivery or forcing soldiers to eat cold meals. In hot climates, food could spoil quickly, and chocolate melted into sticky puddles. Rain and mud made fires and cooking difficult, forcing soldiers to rely more on canned and dry rations. Despite these challenges, soldiers learned to adapt and make the best of whatever food they had, proving resilience not just in battle, but also in survival. Part 16. The special treats on holidays and celebrations. Even during wartime, holidays like Christmas or birthdays were moments when soldiers hoped for something special. Commanders often arranged for special meals, extra canned fruit, cookies, or even a small piece of chocolate to mark these occasions. Some units received holiday packages from home or organizations filled with treats and comforts. These moments were rare but deeply meaningful, breaking the monotony of everyday rations and lifting spirits. Soldiers cherished these small celebrations as reminders of life beyond war and the people waiting for them at home. Part 17. The importance of hydration beyond water. While water was essential, Soldiers also needed to replace minerals and salts lost through sweat, especially during intense physical activity. To help with this, some rations included electrolyte powders or salty snacks to replenish these vital nutrients. In tropical or desert climates, staying hydrated was critical, and soldiers learned to recognize the signs of dehydration. Sometimes, soldiers used powdered drinks or small amounts of salty food to balance their hydration. Maintaining proper hydration wasn't just about drinking water, but about keeping the body's balance, which was essential for stamina and focus in battle. Part 18, the unexpected challenges of food supply lines. Keeping food supplies moving to frontline soldiers was a massive and complicated task during WWII. Supply trucks, trains, ships, and planes worked around the clock to deliver rations, fresh food, and treats. But weather, enemy attacks, and damaged infrastructure often delayed or disrupted deliveries. When supply lines were cut, soldiers sometimes went days with limited or no fresh food, relying entirely on their rations. These shortages made every morsel precious and tested the endurance and ingenuity of soldiers and logisticians alike. Despite the chaos, the relentless effort to keep troops fed was a crucial part of the war effort. Part 19, how soldiers balance nutrition with portability. Designing rations for WWII soldiers required balancing nutrition and convenience. Meals had to provide enough calories, vitamins, and minerals to sustain soldiers, but be lightweight and compact. This meant many foods were dehydrated, canned, or packed in small containers. Though not gourmet, the rations were scientifically designed to keep soldiers healthy and energized. The challenge was making food easy to carry on long marches or in combat situations without spoiling. This delicate balance was crucial to soldier endurance and effectiveness during the war. Part 20, the role of sugar in boosting energy and morale. Sugar was a surprisingly important ingredient in many WWII rations. Soldiers often consumed sugar in candies, chocolate bars, and sweetened drinks. Sugar provided a quick burst of energy, helping soldiers stay alert during long, exhausting days. Beyond energy, sugary treats lifted spirits, offering small moments of joy and comfort. Sometimes sugar was rationed carefully, but soldiers found ways to stretch their supplies. Whether in coffee or candy, sugar was a sweet reminder of home amid the hardships of war. Part 21, the creativity of soldiers in making meals more enjoyable. Soldiers often got creative to make their monotonous meals more palatable. They would mix different ration components, like combining powdered eggs with canned meat or dipping crackers in coffee. Sometimes they used local ingredients they found or traded with other units to add variety. Stories tell of soldiers making recipes in the field, improvising flavors and textures to break the routine. This creativity wasn't just about taste, it was a way to maintain morale and a sense of normal life amidst war. Part 22, the hidden struggles behind every meal. Behind every meal a WWII soldier ate, there was more than just food. It was a story of struggle, endurance, and quiet sacrifice. While it might seem simple to open a can or eat a biscuit, the reality was far more complicated, filled with challenges that tested the resilience of those on the front lines. First, the logistics of getting food from factories thousands of miles away to a muddy trench or a jungle camp were monumental. Supplies had to be carefully packed, loaded onto ships, trains, trucks, and sometimes parachuted into enemy territory. Delays were common. Storms, enemy ambushes, and damaged roads could turn a simple delivery into a perilous mission. Soldiers often found themselves waiting days for fresh supplies, or worse, receiving spoiled or damaged goods. In many cases, the only meals available were what they carried in their packs, rations that might have been dropped in from the sky or handed out weeks earlier. Even when food arrived, eating it wasn't easy. Imagine sitting in freezing rain, your hands numb and stiff, trying to open a metal can without the proper tools. Soldiers sometimes used their bayonets or improvised tools, but it was slow and difficult. In the heat of battle, taking time to eat was risky. Food had to be consumed quickly or saved for later, often in less than ideal conditions. Fires to heat food were dangerous because they could give away a soldier's position to the enemy. So many meals were eaten cold, reducing their taste and comfort. Then there was the monotony of the rations themselves. While designed for nutrition and durability, the repetitive meals wore on morale. Eating the same biscuits, canned meats, and powdered eggs day after day made soldiers long for fresh food, the kind their families might prepare back home. Some soldiers developed strong distaste for certain rations, and stories of mystery meat or unidentifiable canned foods were common jokes. This monotony made the rare treats, chocolate, candy, fresh fruit, feel like precious gifts. Furthermore, digestion wasn't always straightforward. The stress of war, combined with unfamiliar or poorly prepared foods, sometimes caused stomach problems. Soldiers had to balance eating enough to maintain strength with avoiding food that might lead to illness, all while staying alert and ready for combat. Clean water was essential, but often scarce or contaminated, further complicating nutrition and health. Yet, through these hardships, food became more than sustenance. It was a symbol of hope and connection. Sharing a rare chocolate bar or trading rations was an act of kindness and camaraderie. Meals offered brief moments of normalcy and comfort, a temporary escape from the horrors of war. Soldiers talked about food not just in terms of hunger, but as a source of memories, dreams, and motivation to keep going. In the end, every meal a WWII soldier ate carried the weight of countless unseen struggles, from the factories producing the rations to the soldiers finding ways to open cans in the rain, to the small acts of sharing and creativity that made even the simplest food feel like a gift. Behind those bites was a quiet story of survival, resilience, and the human spirit enduring even in the darkest times. Part 23, The Rituals, Surrounding Meals in the Field. Even in the chaos of war, soldiers developed quiet rituals around mealtime that offered comfort and a sense of normalcy. These small routines became anchors in their unpredictable lives, marking moments of rest and fellowship amidst uncertainty. Before eating, soldiers often cleaned their hands as best they could, using water or wipes if available. Some would meticulously arrange their mess kits or ration items, preparing their small meal space with care. For many, brewing a cup of coffee was a sacred ritual, waiting patiently as the hot water slowly soaked instant grounds or dripped through makeshift filters. The aroma alone was enough to bring a sense of peace. When possible, soldiers sat together to eat, sharing what little they had. Conversation was usually low and calm, a break from the noise of battle or marching. Stories of home, jokes, and memories often surfaced, creating bonds that helped soldiers endure hardship. Meals were sometimes timed to fit around duties or curfews, with soldiers eating in shifts to maintain vigilance. Even so, these moments were cherished, a reminder that life continued beyond the fight. Such rituals, though simple, grounded soldiers and reminded them of the humanity that persisted beyond uniforms and weapons. Part 24. The Impact of Food on Soldier Morale and Mental Health. Food in World War II was far more than just sustenance. It was a lifeline to morale, mental health, and a sense of connection to home. While battles were won by strategy and courage, many historians and veterans agree that the quality and availability of food played a surprisingly large role in how soldiers endured the psychological strains of war. Imagine being far from loved ones, surrounded by the constant noise of conflict and facing uncertainty every day. In such circumstances, a simple meal could become a profound moment of comfort. A warm cup of coffee, a sweet piece of candy, or the smell of fresh bread, even if rare, could evoke memories of family dinners, celebrations, and peace. These moments help soldiers mentally escape the harsh realities around them. The monotony and scarcity of wartime rations often weighed heavily on morale. Eating the same canned meat or dry biscuits repeatedly led to a sense of boredom and frustration. Soldiers longed for fresh food, not just for taste, but as a symbol of normal life. When rations ran low or were spoiled, it could lead to feelings of despair or helplessness. On the other hand, receiving care packages from home was a powerful morale booster. Packages filled with cookies, chocolates, letters, and small comforts were treasured. They connected soldiers to their families and reminded them that they were not forgotten. Even small treats could brighten a soldier's day and provide emotional strength. Food also played a social role. Sharing rations, swapping favorite treats, or preparing improvised recipes helped build camaraderie. These acts of sharing reminded soldiers they were part of a community, providing psychological support amid isolation. Moreover, the effort to prepare food, even under difficult circumstances, gave soldiers a sense of routine and control. Cooking, however simple, was a break from the chaos and an opportunity to care for themselves and each other. However, food shortages, poor nutrition, and digestive issues could harm mental health. Hunger or malnutrition made soldiers irritable, anxious, and less able to cope with stress. In extreme cases, poor diet weakened physical health, reducing a soldier's capacity to perform and increasing vulnerability to illness. Military planners recognized these factors. They worked tirelessly to improve rations, focusing not only on calories and vitamins, but also on variety and taste. The introduction of new ration types and the inclusion of morale-boosting items like chocolate were deliberate choices aimed at supporting soldiers' spirits as well as their bodies. In quiet moments, soldiers often reflected on the importance of food beyond its physical necessity. It was a source of comfort, connection, and hope. The small pleasures of eating well, sharing a treat, or savoring a rare fresh meal could fortify a weary mind and nurture resilience. In essence, food was one of the unsung heroes of World War II, sustaining soldiers not just in body but in heart and mind. Behind every bite was the quiet power to heal, to comfort, and to keep hope alive when the world seemed darkest. Part 25, The Evolution of Military Rations over the course of the war. As World War II progressed, the demands of feeding millions of soldiers across multiple continents led to continuous innovation and adaptation in military rations. Early in the war, many soldiers had to make do with basic and repetitive food supplies, but as experience mounted, efforts intensified to improve both nutrition and morale. At the start, the K-ration was widely used, compact, portable, and designed for short-term use. However, soldiers soon reported that eating the same combination every day became tiresome and sometimes led to nutritional deficiencies. In response, the military developed the C-ration, which included canned meals that could be heated and offered more variety. These canned meals featured stews, meats, vegetables, and even desserts. Technological advancements in food preservation and packaging also contributed. Vacuum sealing and dehydration allowed for lighter, longer-lasting foods without sacrificing too much flavor or nutrition. These innovations made it easier to transport food to remote battlefields or to airdrop supplies where ground transport was impossible. The military also experimented with specialized rations tailored to different environments and missions. For example, mountain rations provided extra calories and warmth for troops operating in cold climates, while jungle rations were designed with tropical conditions in mind, including items to combat heat exhaustion and dehydration. Furthermore, the importance of morale-boosting items became more recognized. Chocolate bars, chewing gum, and powdered drinks were included not only for nutrition but to uplift spirits. Special holiday meals or additional treats were provided when possible to remind soldiers of home and tradition. Logistics improved as well, with supply chains becoming more efficient and better coordinated across allies. Food delivery became more reliable despite the ongoing chaos of war. Despite these advances, challenges remained. Supply interruptions, combat conditions, and diverse soldier needs meant that rations were never perfect. Still, the evolution of military food reflected a growing understanding of how crucial nutrition and comfort were to soldier endurance. By the war's end, lessons learned shaped post-war military rations and even influenced civilian food technology, leaving a legacy far beyond the battlefield. Part 26, The Social Bonding Power of Sharing Food in the Trenches. In the harsh reality of World War II, food was more than just nourishment. It became a vital thread weaving soldiers together in bonds of friendship and solidarity. Sharing a meal, even if meager or unappetizing, was an act of kindness that strengthened morale and helped soldiers endure the hardships of war. When rations were distributed, soldiers often traded items to balance tastes or share treats. For example, one soldier might trade his candy for another's canned meat, or swap crackers for chewing gum. These small exchanges were not just about food preferences, but about creating moments of connection. Sharing extended beyond bartering. Soldiers frequently pooled their rations to cook communal meals whenever circumstances allowed. Whether heating canned stew over a small fire or combining different items to create improvised dishes, these shared meals fostered a sense of community. Eating together gave soldiers a rare chance to relax and talk quietly, strengthening trust and companionship. In a world often defined by danger and isolation, These moments of camaraderie were essential to mental health. Stories abound of soldiers saving their best treats for friends, giving away last morsels during difficult times, and helping each other with meal preparation. These acts reflected the deep human need for connection amid chaos. The power of sharing food was not limited to the immediate group. In some cases, soldiers shared meals with allied troops from different countries, bridging cultural divides through a common language of kindness and sustenance. Even small gestures, like offering a piece of bread or a sip of coffee, could mean the difference between despair and hope. Food sharing became a quiet form of resistance to the loneliness and hardship of war. Through these acts, food transcended its physical role, becoming a symbol of solidarity and compassion. In the trenches and camps, it reminded soldiers they were not alone, that despite the horrors around them, they were part of something larger, united by survival and brotherhood. Part 27, the ingenious use of local ingredients by soldiers. In many theaters of World War II, soldiers found themselves far from home, facing unfamiliar landscapes and limited supplies. To supplement their rations and add variety to their diets, they often turned to the environment around them, demonstrating remarkable resourcefulness and adaptability. In the European countryside, soldiers foraged for wild herbs, berries, and edible plants to brighten up their meals. These natural ingredients not only enhanced flavor, but also provided essential vitamins often lacking in standard rations. For example, soldiers might gather wild garlic or dandelion greens, mixing them into their canned stews or soups. In the Pacific Islands, tropical fruits such as coconuts, bananas, and guavas became valuable sources of fresh nutrition. Soldiers learned which fruits were safe to eat and how to prepare them. Coconut water, rich in electrolytes, was particularly prized for hydration in the sweltering heat. Some soldiers caught fish or small game, supplementing their diet with protein beyond what rations could provide. Improvised fishing lines, traps, or hunting tools helped them catch eels, crabs, or birds. Local markets and villagers occasionally provided fresh eggs, vegetables, or bread. Interactions with civilians sometimes led to barter or gifts, with food acting as a bridge between strangers in a war zone. These efforts required knowledge, caution, and cooperation. Soldiers had to avoid poisonous plants or spoiled food, and eating unfamiliar items could sometimes cause illness. Despite the risks, incorporating local ingredients was a welcome relief from the monotony of military rations. It brought freshness, improved nutrition, and a sense of connection to the land. This ingenuity and willingness to adapt showcased the resilience of soldiers, turning the challenges of war into opportunities for survival and small comforts. Part 28, the care and maintenance of food supplies. The care of food supplies during World War II was as important as the food itself. In the harsh and unpredictable conditions of battle, ensuring that rations remained edible and safe required constant vigilance and effort from both supply personnel and soldiers on the ground. Supply officers were responsible for storing and transporting food under conditions that minimized spoilage. Canned goods had to be kept dry and protected from dents or rust, which could compromise seals and led to contamination. Dehydrated and powdered foods were packed in airtight containers to prevent moisture and pests. At the front lines, soldiers had to store their rations carefully. This could be challenging when living in muddy trenches, damp jungles, or freezing conditions. Improper storage often led to food spoiling or being infested by insects. Soldiers learned to recognize signs of spoilage and avoided consuming anything that looked or smelled off. Sometimes rations were accidentally damaged during transport or handling, forcing soldiers to be extra cautious. Cleaning and maintaining mess kits and utensils also contributed to food safety. Even under difficult conditions, hygiene helped prevent illnesses like dysentery, which could be devastating in the field. In addition to physical care, soldiers protected food from theft or loss. Supplies were carefully guarded, and ration distribution was controlled to ensure fairness and efficiency. The complex dance of food care, from factory to battlefield, was a critical part of sustaining the fighting force. Without it, even the best planned rations would fail to nourish soldiers effectively. Part 29, the role of military bakers and field kitchens. Behind every loaf of bread and warm meal enjoyed by soldiers were the often unsung heroes. military bakers, and field kitchen crews. These men worked tirelessly to provide fresh food in some of the most challenging conditions imaginable. Field kitchens were mobile units equipped with ovens, stoves, and large pots, allowing cooks to prepare hot meals close to the front lines. Despite the chaos of war, these kitchens brought a sense of comfort and routine to soldiers' days. Military bakers specialized in producing bread, an essential staple for troops. Fresh bread was not always easy to come by, but when available, it was a morale booster and a vital source of energy. Preparing food on the move required ingenuity. Cooks adapted recipes to use available ingredients and made the most of limited supplies. Sometimes they worked in makeshift kitchens set up in tents, abandoned buildings, or even outdoors. The efforts of these food service personnel went beyond cooking. They boosted morale and nourished the body and spirit of soldiers. Their dedication ensured that amidst the noise and uncertainty of war, soldiers could find moments of warmth and sustenance. Part 30. The Legacy of WWII Soldiers. Food on Modern Military Nutrition. The experiences of feeding millions of soldiers during World War II left a lasting impact on military nutrition and food technology. Lessons learned about the importance of balanced nutrition, morale-boosting treats, and practical packaging shaped future military rations. Post-war, innovations such as freeze-dried foods, improved canning techniques, and portable meal kits were developed, making meals lighter, tastier, and more nutritious. Many principles from WWII rations are still seen in today's military food, compact, calorie-dense, and designed for varied climates. Beyond the military, these advances influenced civilian food industries, popularizing convenience foods and ready-to-eat meals. The story of WWII soldiers' food is a testament to human ingenuity and the crucial role of nourishment in survival and success. It reminds us that even in the darkest times, the simple act of sharing a meal connects us all. Part 31. The Art of Making Instant Coffee Palatable in the Field. Instant coffee was a staple in many soldiers' rations during World War II, prized for its convenience and quick preparation. However, making it taste good was a challenge on the front lines. Soldiers often had to improvise to improve the flavor of their instant coffee. Using limited resources, they mixed it with powdered milk or sugar packets when available. Some added a pinch of salt to reduce bitterness, while others diluted it to stretch their supply. In colder climates, hot coffee provided warmth and comfort, while in hotter regions, it was sometimes iced or made weaker to prevent overheating. Brewing coffee was more than just a caffeine fix. It was a small ritual that brought a sense of normalcy and routine. Despite its often mediocre taste, coffee was cherished for the boost it gave soldiers, helping them stay alert during long, exhausting days. Many soldiers joked about the strong, sometimes bitter brew, but still looked forward to their cuppa whenever possible. Part 32. The Role of Canned Fruit in Soldiers' Diets. Canned fruit was a sweet but essential part of many soldiers' rations during World War II. It provided a rare taste of freshness and a boost of vitamins that were otherwise hard to get from preserved foods. Fruits like peaches, pears, and pineapple were commonly canned and included in ration boxes. These sweet treats were especially welcome after long days of salty or bland meals. Besides their pleasant taste, canned fruits helped prevent vitamin deficiencies such as scurvy, a real risk when fresh produce was scarce. Soldiers often ate canned fruit cold straight from the tin, but when possible they mixed it into puddings or other improvised desserts. Though sometimes overly sweet or mushy due to the canning process, these fruits reminded soldiers of home and gave a brief respite from the monotony of war food. The inclusion of canned fruit was a thoughtful balance between nutrition and morale, making it a small but valuable part of the wartime diet. Part 33. How soldiers stored and protected their food supplies. In the unpredictable environments of World War II, protecting food supplies from spoilage, theft, and contamination was a constant challenge for soldiers. Food had to be stored carefully to avoid damage from moisture, heat, and pests. In damp trenches or humid jungles, this was especially difficult. Soldiers used waterproof containers, wrapped rations tightly in cloth or plastic, and sometimes buried supplies to keep them cool. Protecting food from theft was also essential. Supplies were often limited, and stealing even a small biscuit could cause tension within units. Rations were distributed carefully, with officers overseeing fair sharing. In some cases, soldiers built makeshift storage areas or improvised pantries to keep food safe. Maintaining the integrity of their food meant soldiers could rely on their rations and avoid illness, which was crucial for survival. Part 34: The Challenges of Eating While on the Move. World War II soldiers often found themselves eating under less than ideal circumstances, on the march, during patrols, or in the midst of combat. This made mealtime a challenge both physically and mentally. Eating while moving required portable, durable food that didn't spoil or crumble easily. Rations like K-rations and C-rations were designed for this purpose, allowing soldiers to consume food quickly without the need for cooking. Meals were often eaten standing, sitting on rough terrain, or even while walking. Soldiers had to balance the need to eat with staying alert to their surroundings. The haste and awkwardness of these meals sometimes meant food was swallowed without much chewing or enjoyment. Sharing food was more difficult on the move, so soldiers relied on individually packaged items. Despite these challenges, eating on the go was essential for maintaining energy and focus. Soldiers became adept at eating quickly and efficiently, often while carrying heavy gear or weapons. Part 35: The Role of Gum and Small Comforts in Daily Life. Among the small items packed into WWII soldiers' rations, chewing gum might seem insignificant, but it played a surprisingly important role in daily life. Gum helped relieve stress and boredom, offering a simple distraction from the hardships of war. Chewing gum also helped keep soldiers' mouths moist in dusty or dry conditions, and masked unpleasant tastes from other rations or medicines. The rhythmic action of chewing was calming, helping to reduce anxiety and maintain focus. Gum was often traded or saved as a prized item, sometimes used as a form of currency among soldiers. This small, chewy treat became a tiny luxury, reminding soldiers of everyday life and offering comfort amid uncertainty. Though modest, gum's presence in rations highlights how even minor comforts mattered in sustaining morale during difficult times. Part 36: The Use of Powdered Milk in Rations and Its Effects. Powdered milk was a common ingredient in many WWII rations due to its long shelf life and ease of transport. It served as a substitute for fresh milk, providing necessary calcium and protein for soldiers far from home. Soldiers used powdered milk in various ways, mixing it with instant coffee, rehydrating it for cereal, or adding it to soups and stews. However, the taste was often bland or slightly bitter, and reconstitution required clean water, which wasn't always available. Despite its imperfections, powdered milk was vital in preventing nutritional deficiencies, especially in vitamins and minerals essential for bone and muscle health. Some soldiers disliked the texture or aftertaste, leading to creative uses or sometimes discarding it altogether. In harsh environments where fresh dairy was impossible to obtain, powdered milk was a dependable source of nutrition that helped maintain soldiers' health over long campaigns. Part 37: The Role of Salt Tablets and Electrolyte Supplements. During long marches or operations in hot climates, soldiers lost vital salts and minerals through sweat, which could lead to dangerous dehydration and heat-related illnesses. To combat this, militaries supplied salt tablets and electrolyte supplements as part of the ration system. These small tablets helped replenish sodium and other essential minerals, maintaining proper bodily functions. Soldiers learned to take them with water, especially during intense physical exertion. Though sometimes unpleasant in taste, salt tablets were crucial for preventing cramps, dizziness, and exhaustion. Their use was a simple but effective measure to keep troops healthy and combat-ready in challenging environments. Part 38: How soldiers adapted to different regional diets. World War II soldiers served in diverse parts of the globe, from the frozen forests of Europe to the tropical islands of the Pacific. This diversity in location exposed them to very different local diets and forced many to adapt their eating habits. In Europe, soldiers encountered hearty, bread-based meals, sausages, cheeses, and root vegetables. These foods were often heavier and more filling, suitable for colder climates. In the Pacific, diets leaned heavily on rice, fresh fruits, coconuts, and seafood. Soldiers learned to appreciate tropical flavors and adapted to a lighter, sometimes spicier fare. Adapting to local food was not always easy. Some soldiers experienced stomach troubles from unfamiliar ingredients, while others embraced the change as a welcome variation from standard rations. Interactions with local civilians sometimes introduced soldiers to new dishes, encouraging cultural exchange even in wartime. This adaptability was vital for nutrition and morale, helping soldiers stay healthy and connected to the diverse regions where they served. Part 39: The Importance of Hygiene in Food Preparation and Consumption. During World War II, maintaining hygiene while handling food was critical to preventing illness among soldiers, but it was often a difficult challenge in battlefield conditions. Soldiers had to wash their hands and utensils as thoroughly as possible, despite limited water and unsanitary surroundings. Mess kits and cooking tools were cleaned regularly to avoid contamination that could lead to food poisoning or infections. Even small efforts like wiping down surfaces or boiling water helped reduce the risk of illness. Poor hygiene could result in diseases such as dysentery or typhoid, which were as dangerous as enemy attacks. Commanders stressed hygiene and sometimes issued guidelines or supplies like disinfectants to encourage safe food practices. Maintaining cleanliness during meals protected soldiers' health and ensured they stayed strong enough to face the demands of combat. Part 40: How Soldiers Use Creativity to Overcome Food Shortages. Food shortages were a harsh reality for many WWII soldiers, especially during prolonged campaigns or when supply lines were disrupted. Faced with limited rations and unpredictable deliveries, soldiers often had to rely on creativity and resourcefulness to make the most of what they had. One common strategy was to stretch rations by mixing ingredients or altering meals. Soldiers might break up hard biscuits and soak them in coffee or water to soften them, making them easier to eat. Others mixed canned meats with crackers or improvised soups using whatever was on hand. Trading rations with fellow soldiers was another way to obtain more desirable items. For example, a soldier who preferred sweets might trade canned meat for candy or gum. This bartering helped balance tastes and kept morale from dipping too low. When possible, soldiers foraged local food, picking wild berries, catching fish, or trading with villagers to supplement their meals. Sometimes, inventive cooks created makeshift dishes, combining ration components into stews, spreads, or even desserts using limited supplies. This creativity wasn't just about nutrition, it was a psychological lifeline. Finding new ways to eat helped soldiers feel some control over their environment and brought moments of normalcy and comfort amid hardship. Part 41: The Vital Role of Water Purification in Food Safety. Access to clean water was as crucial as food for soldiers during World War II, but it was often scarce or contaminated in battle zones. Ensuring water was safe to drink was essential not only for hydration, but also for food preparation. Soldiers carried water purification tablets, commonly iodine-based, to disinfect water sources. These tablets killed harmful bacteria and parasites by preventing diseases such as dysentery and cholera. Boiling water was another method used when fuel was available, though this was not always practical in combat situations. Sometimes, soldiers relied on filtering water through cloth or improvised devices to remove debris before purification. In tropical or swampy areas, the risk of contaminated water was higher, making purification even more critical. The safety of water directly impacted the safety of food. Unclean water could spoil rations or cause illness when used in cooking. Training on water purification was part of soldier preparation, emphasizing its importance for survival. By carefully purifying their water, soldiers protected their health, ensuring that both food and drink sustained them through the rigors of war. Part 42: The Psychological Comfort of Familiar Flavors. For soldiers far from home, the taste of familiar flavors was a powerful comfort during World War II. Food became a bridge to their past lives and a reminder of normalcy amid the turmoil of war. Simple tastes, like the sweetness of a chocolate bar, the bitterness of coffee, or the saltiness of a cracker, evoked memories of family meals, celebrations, and everyday moments. Soldiers often craved certain flavors that connected them to their hometowns or cultural backgrounds, whether it was a favorite candy, a specific seasoning, or a type of bread. These familiar tastes helped reduce stress and anxiety, providing brief mental relief from the dangers and hardships they faced. Ration planners understood this psychological aspect, including comfort foods whenever possible to boost morale. Even when the quality of food was poor, the recognition of familiar flavors offered a sense of continuity and hope. This connection between taste and memory made food not just a physical necessity, but an emotional lifeline for soldiers on distant battlefields. Part 43. The role of military mess halls and canteens. Military mess halls and canteens were crucial spaces where soldiers could gather for meals, rest, and social interaction. These locations offered a break from the harshness of field rations and combat. Mess halls varied from large, permanent buildings in rear areas to tented kitchens near front lines. They provided hot, freshly prepared meals when conditions allowed, improving nutrition and morale. Canteens offered soldiers snacks, drinks, and sometimes small luxuries like cigarettes or candy. These were often run by military or civilian organizations supporting the troops. Gathering in mess halls fostered camaraderie, giving soldiers a chance to share stories, relax, and build bonds. While not always available, these spaces symbolized a semblance of normal life and routine. The chance to enjoy a hot meal and social connection was a valued respite, helping soldiers recharge physically and mentally. Part 44. How soldiers balance nutrition with limited resources. During World War II, maintaining adequate nutrition was a constant balancing act for soldiers, especially when resources were limited or disrupted. Ration planners focused on providing enough calories and essential nutrients, but practical constraints meant compromises were necessary. Soldiers' diets often lacked fresh fruits and vegetables, leading to potential vitamin deficiencies. To counter this, vitamins and supplements were sometimes included in rations or given separately. Caloric intake had to be high enough to sustain intense physical activity, but food weight and volume were limited to keep soldiers mobile. Soldiers learned to ration their food carefully, sometimes eating less to make supplies last or consuming more during intense activity. This balance was critical to sustaining energy, strength, and overall health in challenging and unpredictable conditions. Part 45. The influence of cultural food preferences on military rations. World War II armies were composed of soldiers from diverse cultural backgrounds, and their food preferences influenced the development and distribution of military rations. Allied forces included troops from different countries, each with unique culinary traditions and dietary restrictions. Ration planners worked to accommodate these differences by creating specialized rations. For example, kosher rations were provided for Jewish soldiers, while vegetarian options were developed for those who required them. Efforts were also made to respect cultural tastes by including familiar ingredients or flavors when possible. These accommodations helped improve morale and ensured that soldiers were more willing and able to eat their rations. Understanding and respecting cultural food preferences was a key part of maintaining the health and effectiveness of diverse military forces. Part 46. The importance of efficient packaging in military food supplies. One of the unsung challenges of feeding soldiers during World War II was developing packaging that was both durable and practical. Food needed to withstand long journeys, rough handling, and varied climates without spoiling or leaking. Cans, vacuum-sealed pouches, and waxed paper were commonly used materials that balanced protection with portability. Packaging had to be lightweight yet sturdy, allowing soldiers to carry their rations without unnecessary burden. Clear labeling and compartmentalization helped soldiers identify and organize their meals quickly in stressful situations. Innovations in packaging not only preserved food quality but also improved convenience, enabling soldiers to eat efficiently on the move. The design of military food packaging was a crucial factor in ensuring that soldiers received safe and nutritious meals under any condition. Part 47. The challenges of feeding soldiers in remote and harsh environments. Feeding soldiers stationed in remote or extreme environments during World War II posed unique difficulties that required specialized solutions. In Arctic regions, freezing temperatures made transporting and storing food challenging. Supplies could freeze solid or become brittle, making consumption difficult. Specialized insulated containers and ration types were developed to cope with the cold. Desert campaigns faced the opposite problem. Intense heat threatened food spoilage, and water scarcity complicated meal preparation. Lightweight, heat-resistant rations and powdered drink mixes were vital. Jungle warfare introduced moisture, pests, and fungal contamination risks. Waterproof packaging and durable canned foods helped protect supplies. Logistical constraints meant supply lines were often stretched thin, requiring airdrops or other creative delivery methods. These challenges pushed military planners and food scientists to innovate continuously, ensuring that soldiers in every environment remained fed and healthy. Part 48. The significance of meal timing and scheduling in the military. During World War II, meal timing and scheduling were critical components of military discipline and effectiveness. Meals were not just about nourishment, but also about maintaining order and readiness among troops. Commanders planned meal times to fit operational schedules, ensuring soldiers were fed before and after missions. Regular meal breaks provided predictability in chaotic environments, helping to stabilize routines and morale. In some cases, soldiers ate at set times in mess halls or field kitchens, fostering discipline and unit cohesion. On the march or in combat, soldiers adjusted eating to fit breaks, often eating quickly or snacking intermittently. Efficient meal scheduling helped optimize energy levels, ensuring soldiers were physically and mentally prepared for duty. The rhythm of meals also offered psychological comfort, creating a semblance of normalcy amid the unpredictability of war. Part 49. The role of medical personnel in monitoring soldier nutrition. Medical personnel played a crucial role in monitoring and managing the nutrition of soldiers during World War II to maintain troop health and combat readiness. They tracked signs of malnutrition, vitamin deficiencies, and digestive issues that could impair a soldier's ability to perform. Medical staff worked closely with supply and food service units to adjust rations as needed and recommend supplements. In field hospitals, nutrition was part of recovery plans with tailored diets to aid healing. Education on proper eating habits and hydration was also provided to soldiers, emphasizing the importance of nutrition for endurance. Medical oversight ensured that nutritional challenges were addressed promptly, helping reduce illness and maintain effective fighting forces. Part 50. The quiet heroism of every meal shared. As our story comes to a close, it's worth reflecting on the quiet heroism behind every meal a World War II soldier shared. Each bite, each ration opened under difficult conditions was a small act of survival and resilience. Food nourished more than the body. It sustained hope, camaraderie, and the human spirit in the darkest times. Soldiers faced countless hardships, yet the simple act of eating connected them to home, to each other, and to the future they fought for. Behind every meal was the dedication of countless people, from farmers and factory workers to cooks and logisticians, working tirelessly to sustain the troops. Though often overlooked, the story of soldiers' food is a testament to the power of nourishment and community in enduring hardship. In the quiet moments between battles, sharing a meal was a reminder that even amidst war, humanity endures.